The film opens in a seminary school where young priests are being ordained. Among them is Thomas Daggett, who is about to receive his halo as a symbol of his new role. However, during the ceremony, Thomas is suddenly struck by disturbing visions that shake his faith to its core. Years later, Thomas Daggett has become a detective. When he returns home from work, he discovers a man sitting in his chair, endlessly talking about heaven. Despite Thomas's attempts to warn him away with a pistol, the man remains unshaken and continues speaking. The man reveals himself as an angel named Simon, claiming he was present during Thomas's ordination and knows why he lost his faith. Simon hints at an impending conflict and suggests that if Thomas believes, he might be part of a divine plan. Thomas is left struggling to respond to this unexpected revelation. Meanwhile, an angel named Uziel is seen wandering the streets at night, searching for Simon in a room where he had stayed. As morning approaches, Uziel, sensing Simon's presence, leaps through a window. However, Simon anticipates this move and throws himself against the window to prevent Uziel from getting in. They have a brief fight in which Uziel attempts to remove Simon's heart. During the struggle, Simon manages to throw Uziel out of the window, leading to Uziel's death. Thomas is then called to investigate the scene. After getting a briefing from an officer, he learns that Uziel is missing his eyes, which might be stuck in the radiator grill. As Thomas examines the room, he discovers a newspaper from a place called Chimney Rock, with a death notice for Colonel Arnold Hawthorne circled. He also finds a theology thesis about angels that he wrote years ago. He then asks the officer about a place called Chimney Rock in Arizona. In Chimney Rock, Arizona, at a school, Catherine, a teacher, and her students are singing in the choir. Nearby in the church, Colonel Arnold Hawthorne's body is laid out in front of a statue of Jesus. Simon visits the church and extracts the colonel's soul through his mouth. Afterward, Simon moves to an abandoned apartment just above the school and makes it his resting place. The next day, Thomas visits a hospital to review the reports on Uziel. The medical examiner informs him that Uziel did not have any eyes and there were no optical nerves or muscles in his body. The examiner also notes that Uziel's blood chemistry was similar to that of an aborted fetus, showing no signs of blood cell development. Additionally, Uziel was identified as a hermaphrodite. The examiner then presents an old handwritten Bible to Thomas, which contains a 23rd chapter of the Book of Revelation, an unusual chapter not found in any other versions. He points out a symbol on the back of the Bible that matches a scar on Uziel's neck. After reviewing this, Thomas asks the examiner to keep Uziel's body secured for a bit longer so he can continue his investigation. At home, Thomas translates the unique chapter from Uziel's Bible and discovers it describes a second war in heaven. This conflict was started by a group of angels who rejected God's decision to elevate humans above all other creatures, including angels. Thomas then investigates the symbol found on the back of the Bible and on Uziel's neck. He identifies the symbol as representing Uziel, a lieutenant under the Archangel Gabriel. As Thomas continues his research, he learns that Gabriel is known as the angel of death, vengeance, and revelation, holding the highest rank among angels in religious traditions. Thomas also discovers that the chapter includes a prophecy about a dark soul being found on earth and used as a weapon. He shares these findings with the medical examiner, Joseph, who now suspects that the body they are holding in the morgue might belong to an angel. The next morning, another angel named Gabriel arrives on earth, visiting the location where Simon and Uziel fought. Gabriel is searching for Uziel's belongings, but since the police have already collected all the evidence during their investigation, he finds nothing there. Meanwhile, Mary, one of Catherine's students, is playing hide-and-seek with her friends. They enter the abandoned apartment where Simon is resting. As Mary counts, her friends hide. When Mary starts looking for them, she comes across Simon lying on the floor. They introduce themselves, and Mary, feeling friendly, offers to bring him some food before leaving. Later, Gabriel approaches a boy named Jerry, who has committed suicide. Gabriel is looking for someone to help with a task and decides to take Jerry under his wing. He tells Jerry to retrieve Uziel's belongings from a specific place, while Gabriel himself heads to the morgue to deal with Uziel's body. Gabriel removes Uziel's body from the shelf, lays it on the ground with his arms spread, and sprays something on it before setting the body on fire and leaving. After lunch, Catherine gathers her students in class but notices Mary is missing. She learns from some of Mary's friends that the children were playing in the abandoned apartment. Catherine goes to search for Mary and finds her having lunch with Simon. Catherine immediately tells Mary to return to the classroom and informs Simon that he must leave since the apartment is part of the school property. She says she will call the police for assistance, but Simon refuses and asks her not to involve them. Catherine reluctantly agrees and leaves. Shortly after, Mary returns to Simon, who tells her he wants to give her a secret gift because he feels his time is running out. Simon transfers the soul of Hawthorne into Mary's body. Mary quickly falls ill, and Catherine, upon discovering this, takes Mary to her home to care for her. Catherine reassures Mary's grandmother that a school doctor will arrive soon. Catherine then calls the police to report Simon, but, assuming he is just a troubled individual, the police do not act immediately and say they will come by the next morning. Soon, Thomas and Joseph learn that Uziel's body was destroyed in the fire. They are frustrated to find that vital evidence has been lost. Determined to keep investigating, Thomas hurries back to Chimney Rock. Meanwhile, Jerry retrieves Uziel's belongings from the police station and gives them to Gabriel. The only significant item he finds is a newspaper from Chimney Rock with Colonel Arnold Hawthorne's death notice circled. Gabriel decides to search for Hawthorne's body. So, they head to Chimney Rock. On the way at the graveyard, Gabriel senses Hawthorne's remains and tells Jerry to dig up the grave. When Gabriel examines the body, he finds that the soul is missing. He then asks Jerry where he would hide if he were a soul. Jerry suggests hiding somewhere far from Gabriel. Gabriel takes this as a clue and starts looking for Simon. Gabriel soon finds Simon and confronts him, explaining that Hawthorne's soul could shift the balance of power, potentially turning heaven into a nightmarish place if the rebellious angels prevail. Despite Gabriel's threats and torture, Simon refuses to disclose the soul's location. Gabriel tortures Simon throughout the night, burning his face, but Simon remains tight-lipped. In the morning, Gabriel, infuriated and determined, tears out Simon's heart, killing him. The next morning, the police arrive at the abandoned apartment to investigate Simon's burned body. Catherine also comes to the scene, and when the police ask if any of her students had interacted with Simon, she decides to check on Mary. Catherine finds Mary in poor health, and Mary's grandmother explains that the doctor found no issues, so she has called a healer to try and diagnose her illness. While the healer works with Mary, Catherine discovers disturbing drawings on Mary's study table, depicting scenes of characters being nailed and killed. Meanwhile, Thomas visits the graveyard, reflecting on the prophecy he translated from Uziel's Bible. He sees a man burying Colonel Hawthorne's body and asks when the burial took place. The man explains that he had already buried Hawthorne earlier, but someone had recently dug up the body. From this conversation, Thomas also learns about Simon's death and decides to investigate further, so he goes to the apartment. After visiting and examining Simon's remains in the abandoned apartment, Thomas speaks with Catherine. She tells him about Mary, a child who had interacted with Simon, and explains her current illness. Catherine also provides some details about Colonel Hawthorne. Armed with this information, Thomas leaves the school, unaware that Gabriel is secretly watching and listening to their conversation. Thomas then visits Colonel Hawthorne's residence and finds evidence of war crimes. He also discovers a piece of Hawthorne's facial skin. Later, Thomas goes to a church at night to reflect on his findings and is deeply unsettled by a confrontation with Gabriel. The next morning, Gabriel arrives at the school, searching for the girl who holds Colonel Hawthorne's soul. Catherine arrives and tells him to leave, but before he goes, Gabriel warns her that she has no idea of what's really happening. Catherine then hurries to visit Mary. On her way, she notices Gabriel's car parked in front of a small tunnel, but decides to continue to Mary's place first. When she arrives, she finds Thomas there talking with Mary. Mary is trying to explain the situation and reveal the secret, but however, she refuses to share the secret. She does, however, describe the events in the abandoned apartment. As she speaks, her voice changes to a sinister tone that causes her pain, and she begs Catherine to stop it. Mary's grandmother reveals that they are planning to take Mary to a clan village for treatment. Catherine is confused, but Thomas explains that angels are searching for Colonel Hawthorne's soul on Earth. Catherine then tells Thomas about Gabriel being at the school and leads him to the tunnel where she saw Gabriel's car. Inside the tunnel, they find angelic writing on the walls and have a vision of a battlefield filled with fallen angels. They realize that Gabriel is after Mary and quickly head back to Mary's home. Upon arriving, they find Gabriel and Jerry trying to extract the soul from Mary. Gabriel explains his plan to Thomas, and a fight ensues. During the struggle, Thomas kills Jerry. As Gabriel moves closer to Mary, she shoots him. Catherine then takes Mary and tries to escape while Thomas confronts Gabriel. Gabriel throws Thomas out of a window, and as Gabriel goes after Mary, Catherine tries to shoot him, but misses, causing a fire to break out. Soon after, officials arrive, and the trio insists that Gabriel must be captured. Following them, Gabriel is handcuffed, and while he is being taken away, Mary tells Thomas that angels are not immortal on earth and can be killed only by tearing out their hearts. Catherine then leads Thomas, Mary, and her grandmother to the site where the ritual is to be performed to remove Hawthorne's soul from Mary. Along the way, they find the cops who had captured Gabriel lying dead in the middle of the road. But Gabriel is nowhere to be seen. Despite this, they continue their journey to the clan village to perform the ritual. After Jerry's death, Gabriel recruits a new assistant, Rachel, from the ICU at a nearby hospital. Later that night, at the site where the ritual is to take place, Catherine is confronted by a devil, Lucifer. He explains that other angels have declared war on humanity, preventing any human souls from entering heaven. Lucifer reveals that Gabriel plans to use Hawthorne's soul to overthrow the obedient angels. If Gabriel succeeds, heaven will become another hell, which Lucifer wants to avoid. After Lucifer departs, Catherine tells Thomas about the encounter and questions why they had not considered speaking to Thomas rather than to Catherine. Thomas reassures her that he will do whatever it takes to save Mary. The next day, Lucifer advises Thomas to exploit Gabriel's lack of faith against him. Meanwhile, Mary is being prepared for the ritual. By evening, Catherine and Thomas see Gabriel approaching the site. Before Gabriel arrives, Thomas gives Catherine a pistol and instructs her to go inside and lock the door to ensure the ritual is not interrupted. When Gabriel arrives and tries to disrupt the ritual, Thomas confronts him, claiming that their conflict is not truly about humanity, but is driven by jealousy. As Thomas tries to run Gabriel over with a car, Rachel intervenes but is eventually killed by Thomas. A fierce battle ensues between Thomas, Catherine, and Gabriel. Lucifer then appears, urging the tribe to complete the ritual. He confronts Gabriel, accusing him of waging war out of arrogance, and claiming that this arrogance belongs to his domain. Gabriel mocks Lucifer about his fall from grace, but Lucifer responds by tearing out Gabriel's heart and killing him. At the same time, Mary forces out Hawthorne's soul, which turns into a dark, evil cloud. The spirit starts attacking everyone, but a bright light from heaven quickly destroys it. With the threat eliminated, Lucifer invites Thomas and Catherine to join him, but they decline. Thomas firmly declares that he values his soul and his faith. Hearing this, Lucifer drags Gabriel down to hell. As the new day begins, Thomas reflects on the nature of faith. He explains that faith is not about knowing every detail of God's plan, but about understanding one's own role, recognizing and valuing one's soul. In the end, it's this understanding that defines what it means to be human.